This time a year ago, there was one thing we were all talking about, and that's Barbenheimer. If you were anywhere at all, especially on the internet, it was completely unavoidable. It felt like all I could see, all I could hear about, Barbenheimer. Barbie, Oppenheimer, that's it. Cinematic event of the summer, it's all anyone cares about. Both films are already individually so hyped, everyone was dying to see them, and then suddenly we find out they are going to be released on the same day. Soon, everyone was counting down to July 21st. They were waiting, they're going to go to double feature. What order should we see it in? Which one's going to be our favourite? It was all anyone cared about were these two films. So I thought for this video, a year later, now that we've seen what happened, we've seen how a cinematic phenomenon like this can impact both films economically, socially. I wanted to analyse Barbenheimer as a whole. Obviously, everyone was so excited for Barbie as soon as that was announced. I mean, Margot Robbie as Barbie, Ryan Gosling as Ken, Greta Gerwig directing. I mean, it was guaranteed to be an event film on its own, and it was. The trailers had everyone so excited. The first teaser came out in December of 2022, and instantly everyone was thrilled to see the dream house, the sets, the costumes. It all was Barbie. Then in May of 2023 we finally got the main trailer, and suddenly Barbie was absolutely everywhere. My entire Twitter timeline was filled with Barbie. I could not get away from this film if I tried. And of course, with the film and the marketing came all sorts of things. New line of Barbies, obviously. There was an Airbnb you could rent in Malibu that was the Barbie dream house, which is insane. There was just so much Barbie everywhere. Everyone was into bright pink. That was the trend. It was all over TikTok. It was just everywhere. What especially made Barbie promo so great for the film was that the trailers were so vague and really just leaned into the aesthetic being great, which we all know the Barbie aesthetic, are familiar with it, love it. So for the film to lean so heavily on aesthetics meant that everyone was just becoming obsessed with the culture of Barbie rather than just the film. This also helped to increase people's interest in the film because everyone needed to know what the story was, which they weren't really getting fully from the trailers. The trailer now has also just been viewed so many times. I went and looked when I was writing my notes for this video, and it's been viewed almost 85 million times, which for a trailer, that's just so insane that everyone just kept watching this trailer, just trying to absorb as much as they could of this film before it came out. It really was just everywhere. They had the character posters that were all over Twitter and they were memed a ton. That just became something else entirely on top of the rest of the promo for the film. Really, Barbie just was everywhere. I cannot stress enough just how insane Barbie was last year and the way it just kind of took over everything. Oppenheimer was a less intense phenomenon on its own. I think, we're coming in with a historical period piece. It's a biographical drama about J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was responsible for the development of the atomic bomb. We're talking about the Manhattan Project, the development of Los Alamos. Oppenheimer was obviously a far more serious film. One that isn't going to be a craze in that same way, or at least you wouldn't think it would be, because it is, a 3-hour Christopher Nolan drama. We soon find out Cillian Murphy is Oppenheimer. Once that's announced, people are definitely more excited because who doesn't love Cillian Murphy? To Oppenheimer, based on American Prometheus, a book by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin. Sorry, I am checking my notes in front of me throughout this video and trying to avoid looking in the viewfinder. So, apologies there. But anyway, American Prometheus, a mammoth book. It is huge. It is like 700 pages or something ridiculous like that. Like, from what I know, it's a massive book. I haven't read it. I keep meaning to and then just haven't. But so Christopher Nolan takes this biography and just about Oppenheimer's life. It is a book that takes a bunch of interviews from people who knew Oppenheimer, who knew about the story of Manhattan Project and Los Alamos and the aftermath of the bomb dropping, the further hydrogen bomb research, the communist ties that they believed Oppenheimer to have, which was, I mean, not true. That was a result of Red Scare propaganda and Cold War participation and Oppenheimer's disagreements with continued development due to his overwhelming guilt that he felt for the atomic bomb. Now, the one thing is with Christopher Nolan films, I feel like there's always going to be some level of hype around it. At this point, he is one of the most well-known directors. You know, he's known for his fantastic visuals, his non-linear storytelling. He always gets fantastic composers on for the score, which, especially for this one, Ludwig Göransson is insane for the score. Like, can you hear the music is a perfect piece to me? But that I'm getting off topic here. But anyway, so an entire year before release, we get the first Oppenheimer trailer, and it is epic. Obviously, it is grand and visually stunning. It is tense, suspenseful. It is all the things we expect from this. And immediately, of course, people are interested. Again, it's a Christopher Nolan film. And with a topic this heavy and intense, I think that also helped to pique people's interest more, because we are still living in the post-Oppenheimer world, the post-atomic bomb development world. So obviously, this film was going to have so much to tackle. Now, one thing is, compared to Barbie, Oppenheimer's marketing was obviously more subdued, more traditional, I would say. It's a far more like expected rollout, and I'm not surprised by that at all. I think that's not a film that you can really do like a massive, you know, Barbie they can do as other things like the dream house and dolls and all the other marketing things. You don't really want to buy an Oppenheimer themed anything, because, you know, that feels wrong. So obviously they had to go with this very traditional by the books film rollout, which you wouldn't assume would get it was never going to get the same kind of reception as Barbie, or again, so we thought before Barbenheimer became the phenomenon that it did. So then we get to a point where we know that both films are coming out on July 21st, 2023. And everyone is, you know, some people are like, well, what film do I go see opening day? Or like, which do I choose? And then most people decide, oh, I'm going to do a double feature. I'm going to go see Barbie, I'm going to go see Oppenheimer. I can't decide. These are the two probably most anticipated films of the year, certainly for the summer box office season. So people are now on Twitter especially deciding what order is best to see them. People are coming up with game plans for like, what order do they see them in? What kind of break do they need between the films? But of course, especially with Oppenheimer, that is a mammoth film, a 3-hour epic biographical drama. I cannot stress enough how like mammoth of a film that is. And then to also go, I'm going to go watch Barbie as well, which you knew wasn't just going to be like a traditional like, oh, it's Barbie movie. You know, with Greta Gerwig directing, it's going to be more interesting than that. It's going to be more to the story than that. So people are now constantly talking about the plan for the double feature that is Barbenheimer. People are planning on dressing up. There is fan art of Barbie and Oppenheimer. It is just now even more constant. Just everyone talking about these two films, going to see them, and their excitement over what's becoming a massive event. So, July 21st comes, and as expected at this point because of the phenomenon, opening weekend for Barbenheimer is crazy. It is the only thing people are talking about over that weekend. It is these films. I went and saw Oppenheimer on the Thursday here, and then I went and saw Barbie the Friday. I was like, I'm not doing these in one day. I was like, I'll do 2 days back to back, which I'm so glad I did because I was so out of it after Oppenheimer. I loved it, but like, I had such a visceral response that there was no way I could have watched Barbie directly after. I give so much credit to people who actually did the double feature in one day. You are insane, but I respect it. So anyway, very quickly, everyone is praising both films. People are so emotionally moved by Barbie, especially for women and girls. They were so thrilled to have a story that felt like it told so much of their experience, and using Barbie, which is something that's so nostalgic to all of us. And Oppenheimer is being heralded as quite possibly one of Christopher Nolan's best pieces of work. It is expansive and somewhat disturbing. It is filled with suspense. It is cinematically gorgeous, especially people want to go see in IMAX because Christopher Nolan is obviously such a celebrator of the IMAX format and someone who really cares about that format being widely used and used to its full potential. Both films are garnering so much praise at this point. And so then we get the box office numbers. So originally Barbie was expected to make like 75 million in the opening weekend in the American domestic box office. That was like, that's a very well performing film. However, Barbie ended up making 155 million in the opening weekend at the American domestic box office, which made it the highest opening weekend for a female directed film ever. Also, sorry, I am looking at my notes because I keep forgetting the numbers, and I also keep looking at my viewfinder. Ignore that. Anyway, seeing Oppenheimer was predicted to make 50 million, which again, for an R-rated 3-hour drama, that is already a very high number to ask for. However, it ended up making 80.5 million in the opening weekend at the American domestic box office, which for a film of that kind is wild numbers. On top of that, internationally, Oppenheimer made another 93.7 million in the opening weekend, and Barbie made an additional 182 million internationally in the opening weekend. Those numbers are wild. For an opening weekend to be this grand in size, it ended up being the 4th highest opening weekend ever at the box office. Like, the phenomenon that these two films had generated together was so insane. The sheer amount of money, people in seats, people now saying they're going to go see either one or both of the films multiple times. I ended up seeing Oppenheimer 3 times in theatres because I just needed to like sit with it for longer. So now they complete their box office runs eventually, and Barbie ends up making $1.5 billion US worldwide in total. A wild number. Again, that is so much money. There's so many people going to see this film. And then Oppenheimer ended up making a total of 974 million US globally, which is obviously seems very impressive. Again, I can't stress enough, due to the kind of film it is, due to its historical nature especially, that is more than just like a success. There's an overwhelming level of success for this film. So now that both films are out, it was no longer like the anticipation of Barbenheimer, it was now the cultural phenomenon, I think, of the event, of people dressing up and going with their friends and like the event of the film, but it was also now the separate individual responses to each film, because of course they elicited quite different responses despite both being overwhelmingly positive. Barbie, again, was this, for women and girls, it was this, for a lot of people, this very emotional experience. They felt really seen by the film. like Billie Eilish's song What Was I Made For was all over TikTok, and girls making videos to it about their experience, how this film like really described that for them. And in Oppenheimer, you were left with the existential dread of, again, living in the post-Oppenheimer, post-atomic bomb world that he had created, and the consequences that we are still living with now, that we will forever be living with due to this, as well as just, again, the film is such an expansive piece of work, and while also being such a singularly focused work, that I think everyone was just so in awe of Oppenheimer. Like, again, but I saw it 3 times because I just wanted to keep sitting with it, keep processing it, and I think that was really what that film did. So because of this, both films having this massive success collectively, individually, everyone kind of had this like feeling after that of like, cinema is back. Everyone kept saying like, cinema's back, especially after COVID. Like, people weren't really going out to movie theatres, they weren't going out to the cinema as much anymore. Everyone's like, I'd rather watch things at home. But this event forced everyone out again, and that made people go, wow, cinema is back, like we are so back. And it just gave everyone lots of hope for like the future of the box office, the future of cinema and movie theatres, because, you know, especially across the US, like lots of cinemas had been shutting. You know, people were really starting to be concerned for the industry, and Barbenheimer really reignited this like passion for it in a lot of people, and this hope that like it would be fine. Barbie's success obviously felt a little more obvious. Like, again, Greta Gerwig directed, Margot Robbie as Barbie. You know, obviously that film was kind of guaranteed to do well. Like, it's a Barbie movie. Who does, like, of course, everyone wants to go see the Barbie movie. So everyone knew that it was going to do well, but the fact it had done as well as it did was still so impressive. And then again, I cannot stress enough how the success of Oppenheimer especially really gave hope to like these like prestige films, these larger formats, because of the IMAX viewership, like of a true like film like this, like in the, I guess, somewhat pretentious way, like I go see a film. But Oppenheimer really was just, had achieved something that no one could have predicted for, again, an R-rated 3-hour movie about the atomic bomb. That's insane. But so because of this, everyone was like, we're so back, you know, we can make a big, like, obvious blockbuster film like Barbie and it will be super successful. It can make an intense drama like Oppenheimer and it can be successful. So everyone was like, cinema is back, we are so good. So of course, following that, studios were like, oh, we need to try and replicate it, which I don't think is fully possible. I think what makes Barbenheimer so special is that it was not marketing that achieved it. It was simply people going, oh, I want to go see both of these films. Oh, it happens to be the same day. Therefore, I'm going to go see both and I'm going to make it a thing. And as us all collectively kind of agreeing on that is what made it such a phenomenon, but also such a special event, because it was such a genuine, like, just want from everyone to be like, oh, we need to do this, versus it being like, if it had been marketed specifically that way to us by the studios to begin with, I don't think it would have been as massive. I think what made it special was it being a social phenomenon, not just marketing. But so of course, in an attempt to recreate it now, it appears the studios are trying a little bit to do it. We'll see how successful it is. And that is with Wicked and Gladiator 2. Obviously Wicked has been in the works for a while. We've been talking about Wicked for a long time. It comes out in November of this year. I love how I'm like excited for Wicked. I plan on seeing it opening day. Yeah, I forgot and had to read my notes. It comes out on November 22nd, okay? So Wicked, everyone's been excited for that for a while. And then Gladiator 2 has also been hyped for a while. We know that like it's a stacked cast. We have got Paul Mescal and Pedro Pascal in it. So everyone's very excited for that. And of course it's also the sequel to Ridley Scott's Gladiator So, of course, recently they've announced Gladiator 2 will now be released the same day as Wicked. I've seen some people referring to it as Glicked, which I kind of hate that name. It does not sound as good as Barbenheimer, but I guess they're trying to recreate that like somewhat, I guess, ultra masculine film with like historical context versus a more feminine, bright film or whatever with Wicked. I really don't think it will achieve the same thing. I think, well, people have been really hyped for both films and they're both going to be massive, absolutely. I don't know if it's going to be the same like double feature effect as Barbenheimer did, because both Barbie and Oppenheimer felt like you really couldn't miss it films, and like they need to be like opening day films. And while I'm sure like lots of people feel that way about Wicked and Gladiator 2, like again, I will go see Wicked opening day. I'm very excited for it. I think Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are going to be phenomenal in it. The trailer looks wild. But I don't know yet if it's going to be the same kind of phenomenon with Glicked. I cannot say Glicked with a straight face. I'm sorry, that's just not, it doesn't sound like, it sounds weird to me. I don't know. Anyway, I'm happy to be proven wrong about like the Gladiator 2 Wicked thing. I think that is to be seen. But I do think it's interesting now that we've seen Barbenheimer and we've seen people talk for a while like, what will the next Barbenheimer be? What's going to be the next Barbie and Oppenheimer? Because that's all anyone could talk about last year, and now we're like searching for that phenomenon again, that feeling again of like collective cinematic excitement. Even though I do think with like Dune Part 2, I think it was a pretty collective like excitement for that film. I don't know whether though if like I'm skewed because I'm on film Twitter or what, but I mean I saw lots of people being very excited. I went and saw Dune Part 2, loved it. If you want a video about that, I will make one. Yeah, I'm very interested to see like what Glicked does, and also clearly just how powerful Barbenheimer was, both from what we've seen but also now from this urge to replicate that. So yeah, I'm just so curious really. But yeah, so anyway, that's Barbenheimer a year later. My next two videos, I'm going to actually be re-watching Barbie and Oppenheimer and analysing them away from the phenomenon of Barbenheimer, because I'm so interested to see my feelings like now and without the additional like excitement of the phenomenon of the cultural impact. I mean, I have a feeling I do know like kind of how I feel. I've seen Oppenheimer, like I said, 3 times in theatres, and I've watched it twice, maybe 3 times since then. So obviously I'm gonna probably be very pro that film. Should I say pro Oppenheimer? I'm not pro Oppenheimer as a person, okay? But definitely probably more pro that film than Barbie. I'm very interested to see how I feel about Barbie because I haven't seen that since opening night. So anyway, I'm Janae Brazell. If you liked the video, please like it. And if you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe. I'm going to be doing more film analysis, more like cultural phenomenon around film and how I think that affects our viewing. And also, if you would like to just see more of me in general, you also follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I'll link those down below. I post on Instagram every day. I post on TikTok, you know, usually a few times a week. So if you want to see more from me, follow me on those places. I am also a makeup and special effects artist, and that's where you can see that work of mine, especially on Instagram. That is really where I show all my makeup work, and as I said, I post here every day. So if you would like to see more of me, please join me for more content. I mean, this is my first video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, yeah, like, subscribe, all the good YouTubery things. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.